Over the course of the hiatus, and maybe even a little bit before, I spent a lot of time thinking about the worlds of self-publishing and traditional publishing and how they kind of both exist in their own little universes, very rarely actually intersecting unless you're actually a hybrid author who's doing both. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm realizing that there are so many ways that both of these universes can learn from each other. Hello, Word Nerds! Happy Thursday! We are back and I am so excited. I have missed you all so very much. Hiatus was awesome, moving was insane, but now we are back to talking about books and publishing and all of those wonderful things. So, like I said in the intro, today I wanted to talk a little bit about both of the worlds of self-publishing and traditional publishing and all of the things they can learn from each other. While I am very much entrenched in the world of self-publishing, most of my writing friends are all about the traditional publishing world and agents and query letters and all of that stuff. So I feel like I spend a lot of time thinking about and surrounded by both. On Facebook and the groups I'm in, that's a lot of self-publishing news and all of that stuff. My Twitter is almost entirely traditional publishing, which I'm trying to change and branch out a little bit. But I get a lot of the news from both worlds and kind of see how things work in terms of publishing a book from both worlds. Obviously, I'm no kind of expert on the world of traditional publishing or self-publishing either, really. I just have a pretty firm grasp on the steps and what to be expected and all of that stuff, so let's jump in. For the sake of simplicity and alliteration, we're going to break today's video down into 3 P's, which are pricing, promotion, and pacing. So first up, we have pricing, which is what I believe that self-publishing can help teach the world of traditional publishing. The big thing here is that you can sell more books by pricing them lower. I understand that the traditional publishing world has a lot of overhead costs, which is why books tend to cost more. But if you're trying to make back that cost and make any sort of profit, selling more books and making more money overall is kind of a nice way to go. You are seeing more and more of this in the traditional publishing world with things like BookBubs and big major sales on first in series, but this is something that the self-publishing world does all the time. Tons of authors have their books either free or permanently just 99 cents in order to hook readers into a series. The idea being that a lower barrier to entry is more likely to hook more readers that will buy more books in your series later on. Obviously, things aren't going to match up here perfectly, and things are pretty pricey in the world of traditional publishing, but I'm sure in an industry that has been doing the same things the same way for a very long time, there are things that they can start doing more efficiently in order to cut down pricing and get readers books at a lower cost, because things can get pretty expensive if you are reading a ton of books, which is where things like Kindle Unlimited are doing really well in the self-publishing world, where readers can pay one monthly price and read as many books as they want to for as long as they are paying that subscription. So having more things like that could be really interesting for the traditional publishing world, where people want to read more and more books but can't always afford to do so. On the flip side, I think the big thing that the world of self-publishing can learn from the more traditional publishing route is all things promotion. This is where traditional publishing shines. It has the major bestsellers that turn into movie deals and have books and TV rights sold super quickly, and it's all super amazing. Whereas on the self-publishing side, you have best-selling authors who are some of the top 100 selling authors on Amazon that people who don't read them have never even heard of. Whereas there are so many household names in the world of traditional publishing. So clearly there's a lot to be learned from that. The world of traditional publishing has been promoting books for as long as there have been books. So they are very good at it. They know which markets to hit, where you want to put the books out in order to find the right readers. And I'm sure there are tons of things we can learn from how they do things and try to adapt them into a more self-publishing friendly style of things, because I'm sure most self-published authors cannot afford to do things the way that the world of traditional publishing does. But still, let's learn from each other. And speaking of learning from each other, that brings us to our final point, which is pacing, which is an area where I think both sides of the coin have a lot to learn from each other because they are doing things very differently. In the world of self-publishing, while you do get to decide your own pace, a lot of the people who are doing very well and who are the ones giving a lot of advice in the self-publishing world absolutely recommend publishing very frequently, even if that means saving up books that you've written over the course of years in order to publish them more close together. Whereas in the traditional publishing world, there's a lot of fear about reader burnout and not publishing too many books by one author too close together. The big thing is that the traditional publishing world is trying to reach more of that casual reader who's maybe only reading a few books a year, whereas the self-publishing world is feeding those readers who are reading upwards of 50 books a year. Obviously, this isn't always the case, but whale readers are a big thing in self-publishing. You are finding those readers who just read constantly, especially in romance. These are people who are reading maybe a book a day. So these readers are finding authors who are putting out book after book after book and beating that reading itch, whereas in the traditional publishing world, you kind of have to find quite a few different authors who aren't publishing as often, and it's a whole different thing. And it's really interesting to think about because both of these kinds of readers exist along with all kinds in the middle, and both subsects are being reached by a different group. So how can we kind of cross-pollinate that and figure out how to learn from each other and reach more readers on both sides? In the end, I have no specific answers on how one side is doing things or how the other side is doing things and what specifically the other group needs to be doing or any of that, but both types of publishing are handling things very differently and kind of trying to adapt to find the best points in one side while keeping their own best points, and there's a lot to be learned by just studying the world of publishing and being immersed in both worlds, no matter which kind of author you ultimately plan on being. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so happy to be back. Don't forget to tune in on Sunday for our next live chat. In the meantime, happy reading, happy writing, and I'll see you next time.